Islam, bro. So we in part two. Oh, peace. So we in part two now. So like I said, family, you can go later on and dig part one, but now we in part two. And so our topic is we're going to talk about the true essence of 4th of July, the Kemetic principles, and the triple rose, and its historical aspect of more. And I'm going to show you that the Nation of Islam know what I'm talking about, and most elders know. Some that's signed the oath and not going to reveal the science. So, how I said, the oldest hieroglyphic shows that the ancient name of the black waters of the Nu was Neturu, and it spells out to be more. We have more. We have to because the gospel is ours. They just not. I promise you, they're not gonna teach. Most brothers and sisters that's in the churches, they know. Like Pastor Stewart know, but he's not gonna teach that because he's programmed. They teach from an esoteric standpoint, not esoteric. They teach that God and man is not one. They're not teaching the scriptures. The scripture is all about a family and landmass, facts, and it must be explained. Analogy, parables must be explained. We must break it down, but we've been connotated, and they use that religion as force over your head, and it's false. But let's finish this science. Let's teach this science. If I can show the synchronicity. I'm gonna show pictures of all our people when we talk about old history and things of historical aspects. When I show the synchronicity of who we are from an indigenous aspect, how this science is ours. In October of 1928, the same, I'm gonna show you pictures, is Master Farad Muhammad under the David Ford. When I say certain individual was taught by our prophet. Pictured in the upper left-hand corner, there are many Masons, indigenous Masons, not European Masons under some dogma. In the picture, the development of the MSTA, the Moorish Science Temple of America, saw the influence of many high-degree black Shriners, Masons, and secret societies, particular the ancient Egyptian Arabic orders of the nobles of the mystic shrine, started by Noble Ali Rofilt Pasha and John George Jones in 1893. These so-called secret societies played a major role in the events during the 1920s and 30s in governmental changes in America that have great importance to the events happening presently today in respect to the subject of reparations and the New World Order. You got to know what the New World Order is all about. Moore's literature pamphlet, The Industrial Acts of the Muslims, page 17 by Prophet Noble Ali. Interviews with Anderson L. of Baltimore. I'm gonna show you the pictures of brothers. We gotta know what this is all about and question who we are. We have to. Or what is this life all about? I'm gonna show you how in history, I'm gonna read something to you. How when people act like they don't know, they do know. They know. I promise you. Everybody know that the law is to take identity cards away from you. This was written on the identity card in letters about who you are with your identity cards. And I'm going to read something that the Nation of Islam had. They wore the fez. I'm going to show you a picture of Elijah Muhammad with the fez on. One of the 25,000 identification cards given out by Master Farad Muhammad in Detroit and Chicago from 1930 to 1934 for registered Muslims. And on here it's a picture one. If Muhammad Sharif, his address on here, Detroit, Michigan, blah, blah, blah. It said this bearer is a registered Muslim. Kindly retain this card and published, and bearers is founded. Please return to owner. When you can see for yourself. Where it's no secret. It's just things not being told and to keep certain people under bondage. The history is there. The history is there, Moors. So I'm gonna give you some science on some historical things for you can question when people get you caught up in just giving you their one explanation. And I said it's two sides of everything. So if a person is only going to give you one side, that's not historical. They're not a scientist. They're not a master teacher because they're not giving you nothing to. They're giving you religious dogma or their own connotative perspective. And that's not what I'm here to do. So, what was the lawful authority to take such actions in law based on Moors? Think. Now we're going to get into science. I want you to think. We in our science part. What knowledge did the individual have about the United States of America's foundational documents and the treaties attached to the Constitution and the lawful and the legal consequences? So think about this, Moors. In truth, what are the practical benefits of this information that I'm giving? All of the people of this discussion that we're either high degrees, initiates into the so-called secret societies of the planet, or supremely aware of the actions of these elitist groups. And that's what we're going to teach, with the ability to guide the poor into a position of power and self-reliance. I'm going to teach you this. I teach you how to master yourself. So we're going to get into the essence of the 4th of July and the 4th Independence Day, which was just a cosmic event. The day of Keeper. The day of the Keeper. Khepher. Write it down, Moors. Write it down. Please, let's do the work. Let's do this work. The astronomical day of Keefer, the hieroglyphic symbol of the dung beetle holding a solar disk. Get your pens, Morris. This school. This way, when you see the Pope and you see all these signs and symbols you see on their clothing, you don't know what it means. The pine cone, all your science. The dung beetle holding a solar disk. The beetle was the sign of Cancer before the crab, Moors. The astronomical and the astrological sign of Cancer is from approximately June 21st to July 21st, Moors. The solar disk held by the dung beetle is not representing the sun, but the star Sirius, Moors. It is on July the 3rd through the 5th that Sirius is aligned directly with the sun and earth, Moors. It is in the center of its 70-day period of disappearance from the heavens. And this was a special spiritual time. This was a special time period in the ancient Moorish nation, in Egypt, in Temorally. This astronomical positioning of the planets, the sun, and this star at the center of the universe is a time of special spiritual forces that affects all events of the earth, family. It's not coincidental that America was founded on this date of the 4th, 1776. We're going to talk about some things. It is July 4th, 1930. We're going to talk about some science, some real science. Were these so-called elitists aware of the ancient science of life that deals with the Sirius mysteries that was reestablished by the family of Amran, Amraan, the 18th dynasty of Egypt, Moorish Israel? Research the science, the world's first monotheistic culture of the present age of history, Moors. What does the knowledge of physical motions and geometry of the universe have to do with our concept of God or of ourself and its accuracy or inaccuracy? It pertains to our subject in its reparations. And in order to repair, that's all reparation is. We're trying to repair. And in order to repair, we must discuss the knowledge of self, which we are gods, and go to the root on all levels, removing dogma, removing hate. And how can we identify the source of all universal motion? By force. So the Keeper or the Kephera is a very ancient netter. Follow me. He is associated with the creation and is usually called Kephera or Kephra. So you must know that science so you can't get caught up in spookism, Moors, okay? Or dogma. But each of these orders is a radical tolerant and interfaith as the most of the MOCs itself. But each of them, each of these rites, so to speak, they have their own specialty. They represent the three Western monotheism in the essential and the esoteric harmony. Amenity of faith is achieved through heresy, non-canonical interpretations of doctrine, Moors. So these are religions. As the Moor science of the synchronicity, we view the experience, how we experience them. Like for instance, what I'm saying, Moors, in the light of Noble Drew Ali's Circle 7 and our Circle 7 Quran, which makes use of the esoteric Christian and the Rosicrucian Apocrypha, by a syncretic or synchronicity principle, we have inherited. For us, the monotheisms are living, mutating entities, mutually illuminative, meaning we have to make things real when it's pertaining to who we are. So this position or this context is what I'm coming from has been called what? Joliker or poly-religiously. But it owes something to paganism, which people try to say, and I can teach you about that paganism and show you how things will reverse to you as spookism, and it's not. To the position of Hazrat, the Khanda Shipti, the Sufi, who practice the harmony of faiths and who teaches we are incorporated into this synchronicity. This synchronicity. So I'm going to touch on the films in the transmission of the Haviyas. These are our scriptures, whose imams were the caliphs of the Fatim dynasty of Egypt through 1913 and 1171. This line supposedly disappeared and is not represented by any church in the world today. A Fatimid order, who owes no alliance to the Nazaris and the Qamitas or the Boras or other extant Islamic sects. So that's just the first rite we should know when we talk about the triple rose. That one is the Fatimid order. We talk about the synchronicity. So the order concerns itself with Kemeticism or Hermeticism in the Egyptian Islamic tradition, and with the practices of the initiatic dreaming in the Awasi, the Sufi tradition, in which initiatic visions are sought without any auditorian master and without the Tarak affiliation, and with the study of revolutionary theory and projects in Islamic history. The order follows a principle which might be called anthromonarchism, and consider each of its devotes as a pretender to the throne of a imaginal Egypt, meaning you mastering yourself. The order of Jerusalem is the symbolic and thus of special interest to the adapt chamber Moors. Even as what I'm talking about, the order of the Jerusalem is established itself in Jerusalem, where we will propagate or foster interest in harmony and peace of faiths. So the study of Arabic, Canaanite, and other Holy Land religious and cults of the topocosms, particularly Kabbalism or Kabbalism and magic. When I tell you that's more science, things written Kabbalistically. The Baphomet is nothing but the Temple of David. If you are more and you're a scientist and you're a master craftsman, 33 times 3, you know what I'm saying. The tradition of the Sabbatai Sevi, the false Messiah. I hope y'all know where I'm going, Moors. The tradition of the Sabbatai Sevi, the false Messiah. When you're getting caught up in linguistic apartheid, anti means replacement. Anti means replacement. So Messiah, who converted to Islam in 1666, the Dome of the Rock and the Temple, symbolized by the Barak, the half mule, the half angel beast that Muhammad rode to paradise, launching from the rock to the seventh heaven. I mean, I hope we know the science more. Don't let nobody connotate you with that BS. The Order of Jerusalem is also a chivalric order in that it awards all its members the title of a chivalry of the Moorish Order of Jerusalem. The purpose of the knights is to foster and protect the mission of Jerusalem and to work for peace through interfaith harmony, synchronicity. Synchronicity, Moors. We don't diss nothing. When I see my brothers and they say they're Hebrew Israelites, but I say, but you are more. That's just your culture. But if you are more, you understand all of them. So I don't gravitate to any religious dogma. I'm a scientist. I understand the essence of all of them. But the order of the paraclet is the so-called Christian per se. But if you understand etymology and etymology and the words, we know Christian is Greek. We know the root and the etymology of Christian is Cretan. In the medical field, some retarded. In other fields, someone maimed. So we know that aspect. We know in the biblical scriptures or the Christian scriptures per se. Acts 24:5. This brother is a pestilent fetter, the ringleader of the Nazarenes. Christian has nothing to do with it. He was dropping nationality. He was dropping tribes. The genealogy of Jesus, which is Yahshua. Then it said he come from the tribe of Judah. I dropped the science for you. I'll show you the nationality and the landmass, the Canaanites. In the biblical scriptures, Deuteronomy, I can't remember the scripture. It says the Canaanite will never enter the kingdom of heaven. I'll show you how all that stuff was written in. But anyway, let's finish. The order of the paraclet is a so-called Christian. But since it admits potentially any form of Christianity, it is flexible and expansive. The paraclet, the one who is to come, has been identified with Muhammad and also with the Holy Spirit in the Maniliism of Joachim of Fear, who saw an age of the Father, which was the law. Understand the analogy. And the age of the Son, which is the church. That's the two manifestations, succeed by an age of the Spirit, the utopian millennium, the perfect freedom. So, as another millennium approaches, the order of the paraclet will function to give an esoteric interpretation and an outward manifestation to this ideal. Besides the Aquarian so-called Jesus of the Circle 7 Quran, the following Christian themes play roles in the form of the OP, the order of the paraclet, the brethren of the free spirit, the Adamites, the Bagrads, and the Beguines, the Christian Kabbalists, the alchemists, the Hermeticists, the Renaissance Neoplatonians, the magic, the Celtic church, and its links with paganism, certain forms of Gnosticism, the link to Egypt, Moors, the link to Egypt, Moors, the link to Egypt. You see what I'm saying? Radical Protestantism, the Anabaptists, the family of love, the ranters, the Anatomians, the diggers, William Blake Christian Judaism, the revolutionary churches of the Spence and Wittenberg, the religious cult of Child Fourier, the New Catholic Paintocracy of Stephen Pearl Andrews. I can go on and on. I can go on and on. On this, the emphasis on literacy or liturgy and magic defines the OP. That's what that's all about, the Praex. Another major source of inspiration is the Spiritist, the tradition of synchronism. That synchronicity of the Christianity and the hoodoo of African and native rituals. Iconography, magic, the single most creative source of spiritual strength in this world today, Moors. So as if to prove that Christianity, Moors, follow the essence of what I'm saying, is more complicated than Islam or Judaism, the OP Moors, the order of the paraclet, has already spawned on affiliated with several autocepulous or free churches in face. The main purpose of the order will be to organize the intercommunion of free so-called Christian churches, and thus it acts, so to speak, as the Christian arm of the HMOC of the Adapt Chamber. I hope y'all know, if you call yourself a sheikh or a master teacher, I hope we know this. In theory of both the Fatima order and the order of Jerusalem could carry out similar affiliative conjunctions, but neither has yet done so. So what I'm saying more is the Adapt Chamber feels a need to add yet more orders or degrees. You see what I'm saying? Watch, follow me. To instruction and openly encourages members to form. For example, the pagan, the Druidic, the Shamanic, the Buddhist, the Taoist, the Tantric, the orders, everything. The adapt chamber itself welcomes the inner communion with all free religions and spirits path, up to the including exchanges of the orders and titles. That's why in our read, we obey and respect all the law and the prophets, Buddha, Confucius, Muhammad, understanding all the magic. Example, the Discordian affiliation or the relations with psychedelic churches in the 60s. So all this may seem over complex to anyone unfamiliar with what I'm saying and the establishment policy of this synchronism, this positive hearsay, this anti-auditorism. The angels are said to delight in high sounding and glorious titles, and we Moors are not less than angelic in this, Moors. But we never believe where religion becomes aesthetic, festal, ludic, and creative, meaning we are the masters, a source and power for freedom for both the individual and the group. I hope you're following me, Moors. So let's dig. Now we talk about that Sufism, how we connect these dots, how we got to be correct, not attach ourselves to any particular creed exclusively, so that we may disbelieve all the rest. Otherwise, we will miss much that is good, Moors. Indeed, we will fail to see the real truth, to see the truth, the God man, to see the true Allah, to see the true Buddha, the omnipotent and the omnipresent is not contained by any one creed, Moors. For it says in the Quran, wherever you turn, there's the face of Allah. Right, Moors? When I say a prophet comes in the voice of the people, he don't come to no confusion. Right, Moors? The mysticism or the esotericism, called in Arabic the ta'wuf or the tasawwuf, the TSAWWF, the tasawwuf of Islam is today identified with the Sufis, a word commonly thought to come from the Arabic suf, S-U-F, meaning wool, after rough woolen robe worn by early Muslim mystics. However, there are several Muslim communities such as the Ismailis, the Karamanis, the Alwa, the Druids who derive their doctrines and practices from the Islamic esoteric, the esotericism. Come on, man. In the days of the Prophet Muhammad, there were no sharp distinction between the esoteric and the exoteric teachings, meaning they taught both levels. I'm telling you, I would teach you the degrees. European masonry is nothing. If brothers going around saying that Moors are European masonry, that's false doctrine. We are master Moors. That's why they are sons of Muslims. Just because you have on a fez don't mean nothing. That's 32 and 33 degrees. That is no science. That's a level above freezing. Ask a meteorologist. If you're a real scientist, we got to tell the truth to our brothers. Brothers going around lying to people. If brother don't understand all the signs and the symbols and understand the history, when you ask things and come from love, it's not science. They under European masonry. If they say, oh, I'm under some stake, under some oath, that's European masonry. Our eye is not enclosed to nothing. It's sacred, not secret. After they come out the Blue Lodge, then they put on the fez. Then they become sons of Muslims. Why you think under our empress, under fallen humanity, it's a knife? That's why they call it the joke of masonry, because they under Al-Islam. This is not no Al-Islam. I'm telling you that's false doctrine. This ain't no male group. Brothers, I tell brothers, these signs and symbols are ours. It's 33 times 3. And if you don't know the ancient primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim, it's something wrong. Because 33 degrees is nothing. It's nothing, Moors. If you're 32 and 33 degrees, that means you believe God and man is not one. That means you believe it's a pie in the sky. And if you do know that and you're not telling the truth to your people, then it's a problem. It's a problem. Because I still see brothers wearing European masonry stuff. And I say, I'm not a European masonry. I'm a Moorish master craftsman. I'm a 99th primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim. I teach, but I'm not under no oath. Flat out. But in the days of Muhammad, there was no sharp distinction between the esoteric and the exo, which we should be teaching. The Prophet instructed his inner circle, known as the companions, in both the esoteric, which is the zahir, the outer or the apparent, and the esoteric, the eso, the batin, the inner or the secret, meanings of the revelations he received from Allah. Although Prophet Muhammad, at the last day of his messengers of God, was the repository of a complete treasure of precepts, he proclaimed only some of them publicly, leaving the rest undeclared. And in the Quran, he wasn't the last prophet of. It's right in there. So that's why things we must study and be on the right level and not come. Listen to when we come from Sufism, Moors. After the death of the Prophet, the Muslim community was riven by so-called power struggles and all that stuff. We know that. But Sufism tradition relates how the seeds of Sufisms were sown in the time of Adam, the firmament in the time of Noah, budded in the time of Abram, and began to develop in the time of Jesus or Yahshua. You feel what I'm saying? In the meaning of Yahshua. I hope we know this, Moors. I hope we know that. Not Jesus, Yahshua. And the reason why Noble Drew Ali said Jesus, because that was the name that was widely accepted. Not saying it's right. And produced pure wine in the time of Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad and Jesus, which is Yahshua, are revered as the greatest Sufis. Sufi masters like Ibn Arabi and Suhrawardi studied Plato and Pythagoras, declaring the pagan sages to be Sufis. Now, see how they try to throw things and connotate you. When I say in academia, how they say Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle are the greatest thinkers in the world. That's false. That's false. That's just the pen. That's just the pen. So when things are said, if you're a scientist, you still must research everything. I show you in encyclopedias, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, nothing but a pen, not even real. And that's from historical aspect. So when we talk about secrets and mysteries, when we talk about things, we must understand the riddles and things. Let's dig. We talk about, I looked for him on the Christian cross, but he was not there. You see, I went to Hindu temples and shrines, but nothing. I visited the Kaaba in Mecca. I did not find him. I questioned learned scholars, but he outstripped their understanding. And finally, when I peered into my own heart, there and nowhere else was he home. Did you catch that, Morris? So you're doing all this stuff looking for something outside yourself. And the keys and the gates to heaven is what I tell you is right in your hands. Are we understanding this, Moors? That's why we must master our higher self and go under our creed. If you were Moor, you should be teaching the same. We should be talking the same doctrine. We should be spitting Leviticus. We should be spitting this whole thing like it's only one word. It's only one law. How can we all be more saying totally different things? That's dogma. Let me say this one more time. I looked for him on the cross, on the Christian cross, but he was not there. I went to Hindu temples and shrines, but nothing. If you read your Circle 7 Quran, Moors, what do it say? The travels, the life of Jesus. Come on, man, to connect the dots and get out of feelings. I visit the Kaaba in Mecca. What? The Kabbalah, the Kaaba. Come on, man, touch it. I did not find him. I questioned learned scholars, but he outstripped their understanding. Finally, when I peered into my own heart, there and nowhere else was his home. That comes from one of the ancient Sufi masters and poets, Jalaluddin Rumi. In the 19th and the early 20th century, Moors, many of Europe's leading esotericists traveled to Muslim East. Follow me when I tell you no wisdom comes from the West. We're going to touch this. Travel to Muslim East in search of ancient wisdom. Get your pens. As Jocelyn Goodwin, a leading authority on history of the Western esotericism, explains. But I did like I said, I did my dissertation on that, showed that all her wisdom come from Moors. The anastic journey to Islamic soil has been a repeated theme of European esotericism. Even since the Templars settled in Jerusalem and the mythical Christian Rosicrucius learned his trade in Damcar or Damascus, we find in the lives of Pericles, and Cagliostro. Then as travel became, easier, and a whole host that included P.B. Randolph. I hope y'all know who that is. And H.P. Blavatsky. One of the books, The Secret Doctrine. Max Theon, G.I. Gaddafi, Aleister Crowley, European issue. Everybody be quoting this. I say, man, that's all false science. Renaud Gruen, R.A. Schwaller, that went and stole the works of the 29th Primitive Right, where they tell you all dogma, and Henry Corbin. There was very likely some element of this Napoleon's Egyptian campaign of 1797 when he announced to the astounded audience that he too was a Muslim, then returned to Paris to convene the Jewish Sanhedrin and to reinstate the Christian clergy. What do you say, brother? You said right. Dogma teachers that the New Testament overstates the Old, but Christian pastors are quick to speak on Yahshua. Man, listen, it ain't no such thing as no New Testament. It's only one word. Okay, what's new? Because if we under our foremothers and forefathers, that's false doctrine. They coming with false doctrine. They coming with replacement. They're coming with replacement. Everyone studied under their own fig tree. Every Messiah in the Quran, in every book, in the Bible, the prophet comes in the voice of the people. So we are indigenous people. We had our own, but they trying to strip you and say and call you pagan. That's what they did on the road to. I will show you how to, when they talk about Asia, that's Africa. When it was going around to convert, they were going around stripping you of your gods, stripping you of your empresses and your Artemis and all your figures that you have for ancient times, saying that you were praying to pagans. That's how things are brought. Counselor Narcia was just the Italian replacement. You had the Greek replacement too, which was Caesar Borgia. Which was Alexander the Greek. You know, when he traveled to Egypt and he forced himself as a Greek god. So we must understand this synchronicity, man. And look at the replacement. Jesus is a replacement. Well, let's finish the science. Let's finish the science. In Egypt during the mid-1800s, Madame Blavatsky studied Sufism, Coptic Christianity, and the Druid order, which she described as a last survivor of the archaic wisdom, claiming to be a student of her master, Serapis Bey. While in Cairo, Madame Blavatsky met Jamal ad-Din al-Afghani, an outstanding Muslim thinker, radical poet, leader, and Sufi teacher. She traveled widely, often in Muslim dress, in the company of Albert Rawson, who would later write an account of his initiation by the Druze for a Blavatsky book, Isis Unveiled. All the wisdom comes from the East. And see, we quote these, and they don't, and they'll tell you, and they tell you where they got the wisdom from. Rawson was one of the founders of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, a secret society incorporating principles and symbols drawn from Islamic mystics. I showed you the picture with the prophet, with the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. All our science. He also wrote favorably about Gnosticism and called for a new church of humanity that should be broad and comprehensive, embrace many diverse elements, all working together for the common good, revealing to ordinary people the extraordinary attributes of their own nature by exemplifying before them the transcendent heights and depths of the human soul. Like when I said, when I teach, and I teach from a metaphysical aspect, when I use the metaphysical Bibles, when I teach, if you a teacher, a preacher, a scholar, a sheik, an adept teacher, a scholar, whatever title you put on yourself, if you teach in biblical history, you should use both Bibles. You should use the metaphysical Bible to teach the esoteric. I don't need the metaphysical Bible to teach the esoteric. I can use the regular scripture and break it down, but we must understand both levels. So another influential spiritual teacher who journeyed through Muslim or Muslim lands in search of hidden knowledge was George Ivanovich Gurdjieff. He spent much of his life in Central Asia, which was Africa, where he encountered Sufi brotherhoods and learned for their texts, particularly the Wallet Garden of the Truth, composed in the 12th century by Sufi master Hakim Sinai of Ghazni. And according to the author of the Teachers of Gurdjieff, Hakim Sinai book influenced Gaddafi's own writings. One of Gaddafi's prominent students was J.G. Bennett, believed the origin of Gaddafi's system can be traced to the Sufis of Central Asia, which was Africa. Of course. While many people are familiar with Madame Blavatsky and G.I. Gaddafi, which when I tell you it's things in academia, the reading list, they don't tell you where they got the stuff from. That's connotated history. You got to get with the denotated. And that's where ancient history comes from, and scholarship. But few are aware of the mystic teacher who was credited with laying the foundation of the spread of the Islam among Black Americans. And early in the 20th century, Noble Drew Ali, born Timothy Drew, the self-taught son of former Black slaves, per se. We know the history. This is the history. These are the facts, man. A charismatic leader, Noble Drew Ali, taught that the true origin of Black Americans was Asiatic, and Islam, their original religion. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America, he wrote, need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know that their higher self and their lower self, Allah, the one true God, has been known by many names, but everywhere, his is the causeless, the rootless root for which all things have grown. Noble Drew Ali acknowledged Prophet Muhammad as the founder for the uniting Islam, a prophet coming the voice of the people. We don't be confused. Our prophet don't look like us. Do that make any sense? How we teach our babies who your prophet is, and it's somebody that don't look like them? That don't make sense. One of the most intriguing and mysterious organizations to emerge from Moorish Science Temple, established by our prophet Noble Drew Ali, is the Moorish Orthodox Church. When I show you the Sacred Drift of Peter Moon, where is that book at? When I teach science. When I teach this science, when brothers be arguing and not knowing the connection and the Celtic church, and I say, all this is our science, this is old. It's certain things that was hidden. It's certain things that was hidden from us, man. People wrote on our prophet, man. Founded in the late 1950s by European Americans who had obtained Moorish Science Temple passports as Celts or Persians, the Moorish Orthodox Church attracted a bohemian element. A Moorish Orthodox Church document posted on the internet, it stated that it commented that the universal spirit hidden anywhere, revealed in all cultures, always occult and disascended. I hope we know the science, man, embracing East and West, but rejecting all official stultifying conscious reality. I hope we know this, man. What I just talked about, when I just gave some signs about Peter Lambert, this is the book. And one of the guys of the Moorish Orthodox Church is Peter Lambert. You can research it. Research the science. So we can connect the dots, Moors, okay? I can go on and give you so many people that got... Listen to this before we go to the next topic. Watch this. So we can get into this history. Watch this. Okay. The Drunken Universe Scandal, Essays in Islamic Hearsay and Sacred Drift. Wilson writes from experience, having spent many years living among Sufis and diverse Muslim communities in Asia, which is Africa, and the Middle East. They connotated Middle East. Ain't no such thing as Middle East. The writer was first introduced to Peter Lambert Wilson writings and made aware of the Moorish science through my acquaintance with Rashid Bey, an Australian initiative of Islamic esotericism. When I show you we all over the world, when somebody say you're Europe, a European, that has nothing to do with nationality, because he was European Moor. We was in Europe. We was all over. Understanding what I'm saying? Just like when Abraham Lincoln defended the Moor from 48, I had responded to an advertisement placed in a New Age magazine by Daryl Hemmick. Blah, blah, blah. He Duttyism, Gnosticism. Rashid spent much of his 1980s in North Africa, where he entered Islam, studied with Sufis, and even befriended some prominent Black American Muslims who imparted to him the story of Noble Drew Ali, and the history of the lost found nation of Islam in the wilderness. I'm telling you, people wrote of this. People wrote of this, and they're not Moors. They wrote of this history. I'm going to keep going. North America, as a teenager, Rashid Bey took a neat interest in the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. And this led him to discover the work of the martyr Ali Sharadi, the Iranian radical and Islamic Gnostics, whose pronouncements inspired the Iranian students in their struggle with the Shah. I mean, it's all over. He met Rashid Bey in 1990. He was prepared to travel to Baghdad at the invitation of the Iraq government. Blah, blah, blah. He gave me a copy of Peter Wilson's Scandal. I got that together with The People of the Secret by Ernest Scott. In response to my question, he urged me to study the life and the famous 19th century adventures of Sir Burton. I'm giving you the keys. I'm giving you the keys where all this stuff was written, man. I gave you that. The People of the Secret by Ernest Scott. I'm giving you all this so you can read it. Sir Burton. All this stuff about our prophet, who was recorded as something of a saint and a hero by the Moorish Orthodox Church. In his quest for Gnosis, Burton never stopped searching. All these people got their sign from our prophet. All of them. All come from our prophet. So, I'm gonna give you our, just like in our Circle 7 Quran, chapter 5, I think it's verse 11 to 20, when they talk about our workman tool and our craftsman tools. I gave you in our Kemetic and Adapt manual, the use of our carpenter tools. It's the same science. Get your Circle 7 Quran. Go to chapter 5, verses, let me see. We got to be politically correct. Go to chapter 5, verse 12 to 20, or to 21. It talk about our workman tools. The same thing as the Kemetic and Adapt manual and the use of our carpenter tools. The reconstruction, or reconstructing the ancient and the most exalted grand Ka, or the Ka in the Bible of Allah. The same thing. It reminds me of the tool we handle in the workmanship of the mind. So I hope we know that. Okay? So let's dig with this Kemetic Science. We got about 15 minutes and I'm gonna wrap it up. But according to the legend and the stories, in the most ancient times of a Kemetic king named Asur, discovered the method of raising his consciousness to the highest division of his spirit and increasing his spirit power to the highest potential. Ciphers 0, 1, 2, and 3. As a result, he was able to bring civilization, a spiritually controlled way of life, to the people, with its occupying social harmony, peace, and prosperity. So I hope we understand that. I want to go too deep all into that because I want to touch on these principles. But Tahuti, others say that with Asur's choicest part, conceived a son, Heru, to Asar, who had a legitimate heir to the throne, could change Set, who had absurded, and in Christian myth, which was copied from Osirian Metamorphian thousands of years later, Set, hearing about the birth of a king who would challenge his reign and save the kingdom, sent his agents out to kill the child. I hope we know that history. So I'm just giving you a crash course. I'm going to give you a crash course of the 7 divisions of the spirit. I hope we know the 7 divisions of the spirits, right? The Bab, the Crown, the Ku, the Ab, the Sahud. I hope we know all these. We got to know this, Moors. We got to know this Kemetic Science to where we can do the connection and do the synchronicity and understand the temple of Allah is the perfected man. It's you and me. The omnipresence. It's all you. So let's deal with this real fast. The 7 Kemetic principles. The principles of truth are 7, and he who knows these understandingly possess the master keys before those or before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. That's high science, Moors. The 7 Kemetic principles. The 7 Kemetic principles, which the entire Kemetic philosophy is based, it follows. The principle of mentalism, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, the principle of rhythm, the principle of cause and effect, Moors. The 7 principles we'll discuss and explain as I go on about the principle of mentalism. The all is the mind, the universal, or the universe is mental. Follow me. This principle embodies the truth, Moors, that all is in your hippocampus or in your mind. It is the all, which is the sustainable reality underlining all the outward manifestations and appearances, which we know under the terms of the material universe. When I talk about 360, that's just material. The phenomena of life, the matter, energy, and in short, all Moors that is apparent to our material sense or things that can see. In spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefiable. but which may be considered and thought as an universal, infinite, living mind, Moors. I hope you following me. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or the universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and its parts are or units has existence in the mind. In the mind, Moors. So what I'm saying is, understanding of the great Kemetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement in life, understanding who he is as a business. The student adept is enabled to apply intelligently, the great mental laws instead of using in a hazardous manner with the master key in his possession, Moors. The adept student may unlock the many doors of the mental and the psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intellectually and intelligently. The principle explains the true nature, Moors, of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of the mind. These workman tools remind us of the mastery, how we perfect the mind. One of the old Kemetic Adapt masters wrote, and I quote, a while ago, he who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery. And these words are as true today at the time that they were written, Moors. Without this master key, mastery is impossible. And the student knocks in vain at the many doors to the temple, Moors. The principle of correspondence. The as above, so below. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between laws and phenomena on the various planes of being and life, Moors. The old Kemetic axiom ran these words: as above, so below, as below, so above. And the grasping of the principle gives the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature, Moors. Follow me. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand the essence much that will otherwise be unknowable to us. This is what the adept student have. This principle is of universal application and manifestation when we conjure things up, Moors, on the various planes of the material, the mental, and the spiritual universe. It is a universal law, Moors, that the Kemetic Adapt considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments, Moors, by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Aset to the extent that a glimpse of the face of goddess might be caught, Moors. I hope you follow me. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of principle of correspondent, Moors, enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown family. Studying the unity, he understands the swift angel, Moors, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, Moors. Everything moves, everything vibrates. The principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, Moors. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify, Moors. And yet this Kemetic principle was inculcated thousands of years ago. This is nothing new. By the masters of ancient Kemet, the principles explain the differences, Moors, between different manifestations of matter, of energy, of mind, and even spirit family. result largely from varying rates of vibration that beat from the all, which is pure spirit, family, down to the grossest form of matter. The higher the vibration, the higher the position of the scale, family. The vibration of the spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest. You think it's slow. Just as rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless, family. And at the other end of a scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are slow or are as low as to seem at rest, Moors. So we got to understand between these poles, no, we never die. Spirit just transform, Moors. There are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration. Follow me. Follow me. We don't have to think. Follow me and do the research. Follow me. I'm not saying nothing. I say my words corrupts from corpuscle and electron, atom and molecule to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. Everything is vibration. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, Moors, which are but varying degrees of vibration. And also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibrations. And even on the spiritual planes, an understanding of the principle with the appropriate formulas enables the student adapts to control their own mental vibrations of others. The master also applies this principle to the conjuring of nature's phenomena in various ways, Moors. The vibration has grasped the scepter of power, the scimitar of consciousness, says one of the old writers, Moors. Come on, this is science. The principle of polarity. Everything, all manifest matter is dual. Now we talk about that duality. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and alike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truth derived from human knowledge are but half truth. All paradoxes may be reconciled, Moors. The principle embodies the truth. Everything manifests is dual. Everything manifests has two poles. Everything manifests has its pair of opposites, all of which were old Kemetic axons. It explains the old paradoxes, family, that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows, and I quote, the thesis and the antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree, family. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truth derived from human knowledge are but what? Half truth. Every truth derived from carnal man is half truth, half false. Indeed, bro. Everything manifests. Evil is not evil. That's the thing we got to do. Look, man, certain things was given to us. Certain posts, certain things, they gave things to you in reverse. We live. It's nothing evil. It's nothing evil about us. But we have our 12 function of our brain. And so we're not always happy. We're not always sad. But it's nothing evil about us. It explains that in everything manifests, there are two poles. Nothing evil. We just talking about two poles or opposite aspects. And that opposite, because what's opposite? It's nothing evil over the opposites. It's nothing evil. Depends on the degree. Are really only two extremes of the same thing with many varying degrees between them, more. Indeed, lower nature. So what I'm trying to say, let me give analogies, because I like to give analogies and I like to give pictorials. Heat and cold, although opposites, right? Heat cold are really, right? Differences consisting merely of degrees of the same thing. Go look at your thermostat and see if you can discover where the heat terminates and the cold begins. Go look. Go look. There is no such. There is no such or currently indicate varying degrees of the same thing, and that the same thing which manifests as heat and cold is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply two poles of that which we call heat, and the phenomena attendant thereupon are manifestations of the principles of polarity. How you looking at them? The same principle manifests Moors in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing, the difference consisting of varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomena, Moors. Where does darkness leave off and light begins? What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between so-called black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive, negative? The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it, Moors. You see how we go on this? And I only gave you two. I didn't even get to the principle of rhythm. I touched the rest of them, man. Log back on and we'll finish. Islam.